Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ruck Up Buttercup. We have a girl chat today, and as you're listening to this, school is, if not already here, around the corner for you probably. And so we're kind of talking about the different schooling options that are available for military families, whether that's public, private, or homeschooling. So we're just going to kind of chat about some of those options and some of the things that you probably need to know. Maybe you're just starting with kids in school and just trying to figure out like where your path will lead. And so hopefully we will give you some of our perspectives of things that we've done and things that we've experienced as children ourselves
Yeah.
that may help you make decisions for your kids going forward.
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing, like we've seen an uptick, right? We've seen an uptick of a lot of military families who are choosing to homeschool. And, there's been the questions of like, why? Is the military family average so much higher than the national average? Well, one, our kids are constantly changed. Like it's constant. Like every state's different. Every even base to off base is so different. And as a military kid myself, I the struggle was real, y'all. Like I remember, like I'll go to the third grade. Third grade we moved twice. Okay, third grade is a pretty important year academically, right? We
Mhm.
all kind of agree on that. Like it's when multiplication is introduced. There's a lot of different things that are introduced during third grade, and it is a huge foundation point for your education. I moved twice during this time frame. We had lived off base when we were at Fort Benning, and then I guess the homeowners had decided that they were going to sell their house, and then we had to move, and we ended up moving on days the second part of the year. And I remember just feeling like a huge failure during that year because not only did the school I went to hadn't started multiplication yet, that was towards the end of the year, the school I moved to had already started it. And they were well into halfway through the multiplication. So I was so far behind. And I continued to be kind of behind in math like from then on. Like I felt like it was always this like bashing my head. Like I always took advanced classes. Like I was always in like Avid or AP classes, depending on where you're at or what they're called. But I was always in advanced classes. But I remember having to work my behind off and just struggle the whole time through. And then also just at the same time, like my senior year moved every single year. We've talked about this in other podcasts where I had like the unfortunate time as a military kid of moving every single year of high school. And not even just because like in the same state, it was Germany, Texas, Germany, North Carolina. And my senior year was full of classes that were stupid. I had to take a bunch of sophomore classes because we moved to a state that we had certain requirements of to graduate and had none of those requirements because I was a military kid and we moved all the time. And I was just like, this sucks. And I decided to kind of like skip out on a whole bunch of different things that year because I was like, this doesn't feel like a senior year to me. This just feels like I'm here. And I had the option to graduate early, but I was like, I didn't want that to happen. I still wanted to experience prom and things like that. But at the same time, I was taking keyboarding, chorus, weightlifting, economics, which was a sophomore class. I did take an AP math. I took calculus and I took an AP English. And that was it. That's all I took the entire year. And I was like, this is such a waste of my time. This is such a waste. And again, even then, I was just like, why? This, like, just kind of constantly, like, going in and changing and relearning different states' curriculums and things like that. It was such a pain. And it's one of the big reasons why I'm choosing to homeschool this year.
See, when I was in high school, I actually was given the option to graduate early because I missed the cutoff by 2 days back then. Because
Mm-hmm.
it used to be September 30th and I'm October 2nd. So I missed moving up a grade by 2 days.
Yeah.
And even though my mom was, a district teacher and stuff, they like wouldn't budge. So by the time I got to ninth grade, I jumped a year because I had taken classes at the local college. Like this was when that really wasn't a thing. Like nowadays, you can get your associate's degree before you even graduate high school, which is awesome. I think that's awesome. But I was kind of sort of the start of when that started happening here in Texas. And they actually offered you scholarships. Like your high schools gave you scholarships for doing this. So I took that route. I was never really a freshman. I came in as a sophomore into high school. But my senior year, they're like, we don't want to pay your scholarship. You can't graduate early. So I ended up having to move in with my aunt because her school district that she used to work for, she was retired, like 2 years out, retired, said no, she's welcome here. She can graduate early, like all good. So I moved in with my aunt for the second part of my senior year, and I went from a district where you could graduate early, take dual credit classes at the local college. You could get your certification for welding, auto mechanic, um, some computer ones. I don't remember. And then cosmetology. Like that was when the start of that stuff was starting to show up in high schools. Well, then I moved to my aunt's school district. It didn't have any of that. So I didn't have any ag classes anymore. Luckily, I had extra credits. So I could drop all those. And I came in right at Christmas or right after Christmas. So, like, oh, darn, I only got half a credit. Like, I was able to. And I still graduated early. And what was crazy is, like, back in my original, my hometown, I was just a number because we had almost 700 people graduating probably
Yeah.
in my graduating class. And this was in the early 2000s. So that was huge back then. Nowadays, I kind of don't feel like it is, especially in Texas. But then I moved to a school district where I became in the top 10. Like, what? But because I was a transfer in, I didn't get that like designator on my transcript,
Yeah.
which really didn't matter. But
Well, I feel like that, like, those are, you hit on a few points that I think are important. One is we see a lot of military kids kind of just get by. They just do what they have to do to get through school. And as someone who did that, as someone who had my twin sister move away from military life in the middle of high school and went to live with our biological dad, like, because she didn't want to move all this. Because, like, we knew we were going to be moving so much. Like, we just knew it was going to happen because of the Sergeant Major's Academy. Like, we just knew. And so she kind of there was a lot in play for her decision making. But one of those big decisions was because she just didn't want to go to a different high school every single year. And I there was a time where I had kind of wish I had done the same thing. Like, I had wished that there was a time where after the Sergeant Major's Academy, which was my sophomore year in high school, when we were moving back overseas, and we didn't know that we would only be there for a year. We didn't know that they were going to close that installation down and my dad would have to move to a different location. And when we were trying to decide what I was going to do for my senior year, I had like thrown out the idea of like, well, maybe I'll just go stay with grandma. Like, I don't want to move in with my dad because there's 3 other girls there, but I can go live with grandma. I can go to the same high school my parents graduated from. That would be fun. But it ended up working out that we came back stateside because my younger sister is autistic and she was going to be a freshman my senior year. So they made the decision of we'd split the family up and we would move back stateside and my dad would do his year and another year in Germany by himself. And then he was supposed to come back to Bragg after that year. So we kind of just made that. It was more a decision for Caitlin because obviously like she has an EIP and all that kind of stuff. So like they wanted to make sure she was grounded. I guess their thought process was I could handle it. Cool. There were so many things. I feel like there was so many things that I missed out on. Like, I missed out. Like I played a lot of sports. I did dance. I did cross country. I did softball. I did a lot of different things in high school. I was, on the MUN club. I did all these things, student council, all that. And I feel like I just was a part of them. I never got to do anything more because I never was there long enough to prove to that teacher or to that coach or whoever was there that I could be more. Now, granted, I was a varsity player every single year that I did play, but at the same time, I ended up not playing my senior year because I was just like so fed up of proving myself and all these other kind of stuff. So that I kind of like took that out. And that was just like another aspect of things that like as a military kid, there are so many things that we miss out on.
And I feel like, especially right now, like especially in the last couple of years with recruiting, like some of these kids are getting recruited in like 7th and 8th grade, and NIL deals. And we're talking freaking millions. And Texas just passed where like, or I don't know if it's passed or it's about to be passed or it's being talked about, but I saw it that high school kids can now or are going to or something like that even be able to get like recruiting stuff in high school. NIL has been just blown up. Like, I think it's a great thing, the colleges can pay, especially some of these
Yeah,
colleges.
we
I
just held
mean,
an event at the Coaster for App State football, and they did for recruiting for juniors in high school.
yeah.
So going into seniors, or no, are they going into juniors? They're juniors going into seniors, or they're just juniors. And this was just a recruiting event, and they came out 4 different days last month, and the amount of money that they spent on just this one activity,
Oh,
and it
I'm
was just
sure.
like, whew. But like,
Well,
I never had that opportunity. Like, that was thing. Like, there was never that opportunity of, do this, do this. Like, it was just, and then it made me like looking back, I wish I had gone into the military. I wish I had done 4 years of service.
I wish I had done it sooner because I ended up doing it, but I was married after, and I had done like I'd already gotten one of my degrees at that point. I was working as a NICU nurse, and it's like, why didn't I just take my freaking nursing degree and skip, like do basic
Yeah.
and then skip? No, but that's okay. I saw the bonus that I was going to get, and I was like, I'll take that one.
Yeah.
But I mean,
My thing with it was I just had such a bad taste in the military lifestyle in
yeah,
my teens. I even swore up and down, like, if you were talking to Ashley at 16, maybe even 17, I would have been like, I'm never marrying a soldier. I'm not doing it. I have no desire to be a part of the military life anymore. I was that upset with how things had turned out for me. And like, and now as an adult, I look back and be like, okay, my parents really didn't have a choice. Like, yeah, they could have done geobatching, they could have split the family up and things like that. And it could have been different, but at the same time,
but
they
you
were
also know that struggle because you're about to have to do it.
I do understand it now looking back. And then I kind of tell myself, okay, well, Ashley, if you didn't move high school every single year, you wouldn't have been able to go to all those, live in Europe. You wouldn't have been able to meet all the people you have met that have become like family to you. I would have never met Jeremy. So I look at it back now as a blessing in disguise. Yes, I hated it in the moment. And I think that's kind of like how a lot of us feel as military spouses. You hate it in the moment, but when you look back on your journey, you can see how it has shaped who you are. It's made life a little more exciting, if you catch my drift. Like, all these emotions and all these things that we're feeling and everything that we're learning, you wouldn't necessarily have those experiences if you were living civilian life or whatever it may be. So
Well,
as
yeah.
an adult, I do look back at it.
And thinking that it is pure chaos, right? Like, we live in a life that's really chaotic. That's what it comes with working for the military.
Yeah.
And I think we started homeschooling, and it was 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, when COVID happened, right? So like, that was what actually pushed us into it. But I'm so grateful that we did, because now looking back, we have moved 4 times in 4 years.
Yeah.
That would have been 4 different schools. That would have been 4 different, like, because my son should have an IEP. We just choose not to, like, we work through what we do instead. But like, it would have been all these things that would have been so hard on the children. And while the moves are difficult, like, we still have to have new friends and new places and all these things. At least they know every year it's consistently going to be the same. It's the same math curriculum. It's the same English that they do. Like, everything has felt like it's still, that is staying the same. And I know that my kids aren't at a disadvantage because they aren't having to, like you guys said, start at advanced level here and then be at a low level here and bored, and then bouncing back in a different class, being like so high that they can't catch up. So like, that has been the biggest blessing for us. We didn't know that was going to happen. Like, pre-COVID, we were living in the same house for like 5 years. We thought our life had like settled down, and then it didn't. And that's military.
And speaking of IEPs, like, I had a 504 starting probably my maybe junior year, because they finally tested me for dyslexia, and I had just kind of been getting by.
I think,
and what's crazy is my mom was the 504 coordinator for my school district.
I think that's another thing to note, is so many military kids go kind of under the radar for diagnosis, because they're like, oh, we don't need to worry about them. Like, I genuinely feel like there are so many military kids who don't actually get the diagnosis that they need, or the help that they need because they're like, oh, it's a military kid. They're just going through a bunch of stuff right now. It's not anything that's, they'll catch up. I hate that phrase. They'll catch up later. And, it wasn't something until I actually started subbing last year, because I've worked in the school systems before, but last year I was working in the system and just kind of seeing certain kids not get the need that they need because they were from a background where they knew that the family wasn't going to be as involved. And not saying military families are not involved. I think military families are really, really involved, but I feel like our hands are tied so much because we move so often that we just, some families may just try to get through the year, just survive that survival mode. And so I do feel military kids don't get diagnosed with things. Like I wish I had been diagnosed with like ADHD as a child. Like I know I have it. I am undiagnosed. And I think that was a lot of my struggle in school, and where I had to work like 2 to 3 times harder than my counterparts. And now knowing like what that is, I'm like, that would have been so nice to have been able to like have something to help me get through the day.
And see, I'm a diagnosed, but as an adult ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
I got diagnosed after both my kids got diagnosed. So, because we all have the same doctor, and my doctor was like, you have it too. And it would, like, the ADHD medicine would actually help your heart. Here, take these.
Yeah.
And it does. It's really weird that a stimulant helps calm down my heart, because my heart does crazy fainting goat things and has, lapses in gravity.
It just like has a mind of its own. It literally does.
But the IEPs and stuff, even if you get one at a school district, changing districts with an IEP or a 504,
it's hard.
It depends on how good your school district is. Because when I changed Alex from in-person school to online public school, his IEP transformed into this amazing thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was supposed to have these things or was allowed to have these things as an autistic ADHD child.
Yeah.
We had a medical 504 originally because, his GI issues and stuff. That way he did not have to ask to go to the bathroom. Like him and his teacher worked out, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to, throw up the deuces and leave? Like, give me something.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything. No other kids need to know. Just, we're going to have a hand signal and you can go.
Yeah. We had a whole podcast about this like 2 seasons ago. So like, if you're looking at like how to IEPs and like how to navigate that as a military family, I would suggest definitely go listening to that one. I think like the biggest thing is I think we're really going to focus on like that homeschooling this episode, but there are IEP advocates out there that will help you go to your meetings and things like that. And we explain all of that in that podcast. So I would definitely go listen to that one if you're more interested in learning about how to transition that around and through your transitions. But let's kind of dial that back down into like why you guys chose homeschooling. I know why I'm choosing. One, first off, mainly you two have kind of like convinced me that one, I can do it.
You can.
Two, I think it's just going to be really, really, I mean, there was a couple of decisions of why I chose to do it this year. One, that gives us a flexibility to do what we want to do when we want to do it. With Jeremy being on an unaccompanied tour to Europe, this gives us that flexibility to do homeschooling wherever we are, and we could go visit for a longer period of time. Whereas if we're in the traditional school, we would only be able to go during like Christmas break or spring break. And that limited us to like a week, maybe 2 weeks if we took him out of school for like a week. But I just, no. And then also just like, I know in the next 3 years is going to be this huge roller coaster of transition. I know that we may potentially only be in Georgia for 2 years and then maybe move for 10 months and then move again. Like there's so many, Jeremy's at that rank right now where he is going to be moving quite a bit. Now we're geo-batching this upcoming year because we can't go with him. We're not allowed. But, is that going to be a choice? Like if he goes to Sergeant Major's Academy, I don't know. But it gives us that option of keeping that school steady.
Yeah.
And
that's while we're still kind of on the topic of IEP, the one benefit that I've learned through homeschooling is you get to kind of skip the school district's version of IEP. You can get occupational, you can get speech all through your like medical providers, which is a whole lot less waiting, a whole lot less of a process. And then you are working one-on-one with your child. So whatever an IEP would be in a school, you can benefit that so much more because
Yeah.
like my son has dyslexia and I talk to Laura because she has the resources to help me. And then we are able to sit down and spend more time on very specific parts of his education that he struggles with. And then the rest can kind of just slide and it's not as important because then he can have that focus and it's a one-on-one. Because we're
And
K.
you can adapt it, and the teacher doesn't have to make it look like he's not in a big classroom. It doesn't look like favoritism. It doesn't look like it's
Yeah.
not something that he can be picked on for. You can just get him the tools that he needs, because I still to this day use things that I learned or figured out help me, but my dyslexia is still like, my kids will be like, Mom, how do you spell this? And I'm like, hold on, we're Googling this because how I think it in my head doesn't look right. But it was right.
It doesn't look right. Yeah. And I think that comes down with like a whole bunch of different like types of diagnosis. Like there's sometimes where I'm just like I'll write the word and I'm like, that doesn't look right. And then like you're like, let's just Google it. And at half the time I'm just kind of like, let's just get through the day and like Google things and make it faster. But I my biggest thing is like I didn't want Devlin to regress, because one, he doesn't have an IEP anymore, but he did when he was younger. But he does have ADHD and that really triggers him. If he's not on medication, he has a super hard time to focus, but he's also very fidgety. He's a fidgety kid. He chews on everything. Like he literally eats paper, y'all. And like he was like, I've been in his class subbing and I'm like, definitely eating paper. And the kids were just like, he does that all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, my kid's the paper eater.
At least it's
But
not blue.
like,
Or
and
crying.
he's just nonchalant about it. I'm like, what is going on? But like he's fidgety, so he has to either be chewing on something or he sits like I call him his gargoyle pose, because like he just can't sit on his butt, like he's crouched in a seat like a gargoyle. And I was like, I've watched him in class and he's always the first one done. Like they have an hour and a half to complete work. He's usually done with his work in 30 minutes and it's all correct. And I'm like, that was kind of my like, I think he would benefit from just having homeschooling like 2 hours
Yeah,
a
and I
day.
think a lot of moms who do have kids with IEPs who are scared to start homeschooling, right? Because they're
Yes.
like, well, they won't get the support they need. And that's why I want to like really emphasize is, especially living here, we've learned a lot about it because the group that we hang out with is very neurodivergent and there's so much support and they actually get way cooler support. So they'll have like occupational therapist who comes to their homeschool class and sits with their kid and like does the same thing that they would in public school. That stuff all exists. It's all available. And you just don't know that when you're coming into homeschool. You think homeschool is just me and my kids, and it doesn't have to be that. Like
Well, I think
you
just
have
breaking
all
that
these
stigma,
options. And
like breaking the
especially
stigma.
as military families, DOD, because if you're registered as a homeschool under the DOD, which you can do even if you're on or off base, you can go on base and use their resources in the
Yes.
school as well. So you can go take them to their IEP stuff that they need on base and they can get access. You can take them to testing. You can take them to like SATs and ACTs. If you're military, you can go do all those things still within the school because you are still DOD, whether you're off base or on base. You can still register your child at the DOD school and then just use their resources as a homeschooling family. So that's a really cool benefit that military families have that nobody else has.
Yeah, I remember when we lived overseas, we had a group of homeschooler kids that still did the sports. So they would come, they were homeschooled during the day, and then they were still on all of our sports teams, and they were so fun. Like they were on the cross country team with me, and then I know they played soccer with Brittany, and so like we were able to build that friendship with them, but knowing that we wouldn't see them through the day. And I think one of them did one of the clubs as well. I can't remember which one, but I think like the biggest thing is like breaking that stigma of like homeschooling's not bad. Like there's that, like, like if you're homeschooled, you're weird, or if you're homeschooled,
Everybody's weird.
everybody's weird. Exactly. We all have our, like, everything is, I'm very excited. Like I'm very nervous about doing the homeschooling journey. I didn't do it at the beginning during COVID because like Devlin, not now knowing he has ADHD, which is what the problem was, but he just could not do virtual work. And I think that was the other thing, like virtual work, because he started kindergarten during COVID. Like he is a COVID kid. And I was just like, how is he going to be successful if this is the new normal? Like, I don't know. And I was like, well, maybe I can homeschool him, but I couldn't even get him to sit down and do like the 3 pieces of paper that they had them do like every day. And I was like, oh, there's no way I can, like, he just doesn't listen to me. And looking back, I'm like, oh, well, that's because like he just couldn't concentrate. But he couldn't like stay on task. He was bored. We had to make it a little bit different and fun. Now that he's older, we can. And he's very excited about it. Like both of them are super excited to homeschool. Only have to do like 2-ish hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours of schoolwork a day, and then be able to do other things. And so, and I love that, you know, there's so many options out there to use. That was what's been overwhelming for me is what program to go with. Do you make your own? Do you purchase a program? I'll say that I was a little shocked by the dollar amount of programs that at first was like, ooh, I don't know if we can like afford this per se. But then like think about like all the money I spent throughout the school year. I was like, oh yeah, this is nothing. It's not. But then I kind of like after talking to a couple of different people, I think talking to Sabrina, I was like, I think I'm going to create my own curriculum. I think we're going to, you know, make sure we have all the basics in there that they need to learn for that year, but make it our own because it's one, it's going to be more beneficial for me.
Yeah, I think
Not
the biggest thing coming into homeschooling is to take, there are a bunch of different tests that you can take online that like figures out your teaching style and then how your kids learn. You need to know how your kids learn. So that's why if you'll hear, if you're kind of joining the homeschool world, is unschooling and like taking like deschooling and getting that out of your system first. Your homeschool shouldn't look like a public school. You don't need posters. You like, it doesn't need to be that way because you're going to be have so much one-on-one time that they're not going to be sitting in a classroom. Like you're saying, it's going to be 2 hours maybe, and that's school, right? Like they're done. But you need to know how you can teach. So if you're not a leader teacher type person, making your own curriculum is going to end up in burnout by the end of the school year. Like you're going to be like, I can't continue to put together lessons. I can't continue to do all this. And so then you need to pick an all-in-one, like open and go kind of curriculum. You may be like, hey, I also work. I have way too much going on. So then maybe that your teaching style needs to be an online situation where there's, it may be a teacher or just some person that's there to also help guide your children to make sure they're staying on task. There's so many different things that like options, but I think the biggest thing to figure out which option to go with is how you teach and how your kids learn, because I know that I teach better in person and we do a lot better when I'm there interacting and doing the classes. So we make our own curriculum, where my kids don't learn well digitally. Like sitting in front of a screen and listening to a video, they zone out and there goes the lesson, and who knows if they even learned anything that day. So where if I'm teaching, I'm like, no, back to what we're doing, like refocus back in here. And that's what works for us.
See, and I have, so our oldest goes to online public school. She's doing great, but she was already in high school.
Yeah.
So when we transitioned her from that, she went from just getting by, barely passing, to A's and B's. And it's like maybe 1 B, 2 B's, and then the rest are A's. And so
and high
she's
school's so
doing
different
great.
too. Like we're looking at that for Kira. Like we may go from where I'm teaching to she's online because
Yeah, and she does great. Alex does great, besides the fact that it was still Texas online public school.
mm-hmm.
So it was still that same curriculum that he's autistic. So writing a creative writing thing is like pulling teeth. When we do it, at least for the homeschool side, I try and make it fun. Like it may be some fill in the blank. It's gonna definitely be about probably a superhero or a video game. Like if he can do it, why am I don't see the need for it to be about something that he is not interested in and is never going to be interested in, is not going to care just because that's what the curriculum says. As long as
I
he
think
has
that's the coolest part of homeschooling is we have the wherewithal to be like, hey, we really don't need that. Like that is not an essential thing. Like my kids hate poetry. It is
that's one of the
pulling
worst
teeth and torture for my children to do poetry. So we skip that unit every year because it's just not important in my mind. As an adult, have I ever used poetry? No. Like, is that something that I really ever needed to know? No. Do I need to know A, B, A, B, A? No. That's the most nonsense thing. So, like, some things like that where it's required in the public school for them to get that education of poetry is not something as a homeschool mom I have to do. There are parts where you can be like, no, we don't need that part of our education. It's just unnecessary. And then there's parts where like my children think are unnecessary, like math, that you still have to power through. And I think that's another challenge of homeschooling though that you kind of encounter is explaining to your children why you have to do things that seem unimportant to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The poetry was a big one for us. I was like, why? I we always do the how to write an email, how to write a letter. Like our kids are practicing that right now.
See, and that's what they don't really do, and I think that's really important. Like things like there's a lot
How
of
to
things
balance a checkbook, how to write a check, because kids these days do not know how to do that, even though that's a rare thing. Like you can just go to the bank and have them make you a check, but still, like how to go to the bank and do all this stuff. Like my kids go with me to the bank to see how we do it all.
And learning, I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do too. I think people think homeschool is very like not inclusive with other people, but there's so many clubs and groups and stuff that your kids can be part of that I know locally here we've been part of this group that's called like a chill clubs or whatever, and they have different clubs for different things. And so for the high schoolers, they had an entrepreneurship club where they got together, they learned how to write a business model, they learned how to do like their income and expenses like on a computer, they learned how to set up a market because they went and did a market together. They learned all these things that are actually going to be incredibly useful to them as they move on. That, yeah, like you're saying, public school doesn't really hit that. You may get a class like that in high school. There may be a chance where that's
Maybe.
available
Yeah.
as an elective, but like it's an elective, right? It's only if you have the opportunity and you have the credit space for it or whatever that you get to take that. Where here we have our classes done in 2 hours and then we go to chill clubs, and chill clubs covers all those extra fun things that are really cool for our kids to have.
Yeah, and like people were like, "Oh, well, how are you going to do things like PE?" My kids are in karate, done. But also, like, both my kids have medical needs, so if we're having a day where, oh darn, we have to go to like 3 appointments today. Cool. Guess what? Today's not a school day. Today is doctor day.
And I like how you can have that flexibility of we're gonna go and just spend the day at the zoo or something like that, you know, to get out and enjoy life and not be stuck in a musty classroom the whole time, because there's so much our kids can learn outside of the classroom that
everything is school if you make it that way. Like you didn't realize until you start doing homeschool how much you can transition things into lessons. Like everything we do for the last 5 years is like, oh, well, you want to know why that airplane's flying over the base. Well, this is a B-52. We need to learn these things, and this is what it does. And this is because, I mean, obviously we all live near base. We all have all these things like that you can teach them. And there's museums are so cool. Like we rarely do much sit down history because it's boring. I love history, but we do mostly like reading history where we like read books about the history with stories, or we go to museums because while we try to continue along our curriculum, like we'll go to a museum that's specifically about Native Americans while we're doing Native American lessons, but we don't really stick to our history curriculum because if you think about that also, that's one of those things where like, yeah, you need to learn it. You need to have like learned it.
Knowledge.
But no one's ever going to take a test on that. That's never going to be something that we're like, oh, you can't graduate unless you pass this test. Like history is one of those classes where that doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can make everything a lesson and you can make it so much more fun. Like
especially if you're military.
Yeah.
There's history. You're literally living on a base full of history.
That is what I'm really excited for this year is that we can, like, you know, when we're overseas visiting, like Germany in Poland, that I can make that an educational trip as well. Like we can
I'll send you some of my favorite Polish spots.
We might not just stay in Poland. We might travel too, because I'm anticipating to go like 3 weeks, like 3 to 4 weeks. Like we can't live there, but like
go
we can
stalk my Facebook.
Like I am so excited to like let them experience what I got to experience as a kid, but then also just make it like, okay, well, we still have to homeschool, so we're gonna make this educational while we're here. Like we're still gonna have to do all these things, and I'm so excited to like show them what they get to like see And Devlin loves history. Like, they just, this past year, like, his history teacher this year in the public school was really, really phenomenal. She did the science and the history, but they learned all, like, we're in Virginia, so they did obviously all this Virginian history, which is a core history for the US anyways. So I'm really glad that he got to experience that, because like each state, like that was the thing, is like every state you're going in, you're just learning about the history of that state in the public school system. You're not learning
Which is
like
so funny, like to think about like how different everybody's education across the United
it
States is
is.
because we do that.
But
Like I remember growing up in Colorado, we had weird history and it was like a lot about like the gold rush and like that kind of stuff where we touched on the stuff that happened on the
then
East
they
Coast, but
wonder
it was
why
like
no one knows anything about American history, because like it's
we all get
so
such a different version of it. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so crazy to me. And like I feel like, what is that Mandela effect? Like I feel like I learned stuff, and then but like I'm looking through like history books and it's like, this isn't, I know I learned this. Like now at the moment I can't think of like one to like give an example of, but like I'm like flipping through and I'm like, why doesn't this say what this is supposed to be saying? Like it's saying something completely different, and I'm just like, ugh, like.
And as you're looking at curriculum, that history is a really hard one because it depends on where you get it from too. Because there is like the big word you're going to hear is secular and
Yep.
religious curriculums, and that's something you have to personally make a decision on. But they also are going to teach history a little different and science a little different, depending on whether you want it secular or not. And you will have to be really careful about that because there's going to be some things that like we lean a lot more secular. Like we don't do a lot of religion. We think that church and school should be very separated, then that's fine for us. But we've had to pick up curriculum that isn't secular because that's just what worked better for what we were learning at the time. And you just kind of have to skim over parts that don't make sense for what you would teach your children in your class. So you have to be really careful about that because sometimes it's not even labeled really well as it being religious or secular, and you'll go to do a lesson and be like, whoa, why are we talking about Noah's Ark or something like that doesn't go with what you're learning. So that is a huge thing to kind of navigate and learn like which way you prefer. And if I think personally it's okay to use the opposite of what you prefer and just learning how to use it for your family's needs.
What's funny is like I'm in Texas and nobody loves Texas like Texans. It's true. So my kids still do Texas history because a lot of the history of Texas is, us gaining our independence, us being, a country itself. And then, yes, we joined the United States. And people were like, well, you're homeschooling. Are you going to do? Yeah, I'm a Texan. It was in, I took Texas history from elementary school on up. Like, yeah, it's important. My kids are going to be in Texas pretty much. They're, all growing up. Let's learn about the state we live in. However, we are still learning about Astrid was born in Germany. So, she is already interested in that. And so I've geared some of her stuff to learn extra stuff there. And we plan on taking her now that she can, remember, because she was less than a year old when we left. But like, it's so fun to have the freedom to be like, oh, well, you're really into this. Let's put a pause on this and let's
learn more.
Maybe a couple extra days on that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what's really, really great about the homeschooling is that you can tailor it to your family needs, and you can tailor it to what you think is important for your kids to know. Like, obviously, like, I really hope, like, if you're choosing to homeschool, like, you're not removing things out of it, because history is really important to know. Like, it's so important for us to know what has happened in our past so it doesn't happen in our future. And I think that's one of the ones that I'm very excited to talk about, because I have seen that there are parts of elementary education, middle school education, that things are taken out of. Like, when I was subbing at this school, it's a very religious area. And boy, oh boy, did I like run into, well, my mom says that that's not true because of, X, Y, and Z, Jesus Christ, or anything like that. And I'm just like I get to teach my kids what I feel is important that they need to know to be better humans for our future generations. And I think that's what's really important to me, is to making sure that they have all the tools set up. Now, I don't plan on homeschooling forever unless my kids want to stay homeschooled. Our plan is just until we're out of the military. And then once we're out of the military, we're in a stable place. then they can go to school if they choose to. But I'm going to let them have that choice, because at that point they may just be like, I just want to homeschool.
That's
And
what we do, is every year it's their choice.
yeah, and I think that's great. Like, I think having that opportunity to let them have a say in their education. Like, I really want to learn more about the Civil War mom. Okay, cool. Let's because like that's what they were learning in third grade in his fourth grade class. Like, they started learning about all the different things in Virginia. I was like, well, let's focus on that. Now we can go into World War I and World War II, going overseas for a few weeks. And then build on that as he gets older and as he needs to know more things about those things. And I think that's what's really just unique about that opportunity, to be able to make it our own and
Yeah,
what
and
the current
it
lifestyle.
takes out, I think it takes out a lot of comparison. I think you're still going to hit comparison because
Oh
social
yeah.
media makes homeschool look so different. Like, especially if you're on TikTok, there's the homeschool moms who their room looks like a classroom and everything is aesthetic and da da da. No, it's not necessary, right? Like, and it makes you feel like you're like, wow, we just sit down at the table and we we get through to school and we go and do our own things, and that's different.
I'm only laughing because you know that my room is going to be somewhat like, it's
It
just the
will the
kids.
first year, and then you'll realize that you don't use any of those things. Like, we used to
No,
have posters,
we
and then
don't
we just didn't use it.
we don't plan to have a lot, but like this, I plan to have like an area set up specifically for like work. So it'll be my desk area, their desk area, and that's what we're doing in there. I know for my kids, I have to separate the play out of the, if there's toys or anything in there, or if they can see anything outside of the room, they'll be very distracted. So I know I have to confine that area to a smaller space. But the kids are really excited to decorate their areas. Like, we've already got a couple things for Claire. We found some cute things in the Target. Like, they started putting up teacher things in the Target bins. And so they're very excited about that. But I think that's also just helping me get them a little bit more excited for the homeschooling journey.
Yeah.
And see, we have, so my office area is also our homeschool. I haven't completely decided if we're going with the curriculum that is, it's still on the computer, but it also has printouts and stuff like that. So I feel like it's a good blend. I think that's what we're going with this year for the younger two. But it has, they have their laptops. It's our old laptop, so nothing special. But, internet access, they have, a place to do their worksheets, all that stuff, all the crayons and all that stuff. But it is away from everything else in the house because it's in my office. But there are days where, Astrid will have her port change out. And so she's going to be sore, especially now that we know that she has EDS, all the connective tissues. Like, she is just sore and doesn't want to get out of bed. So guess what? We crawl in my bed and we do her lessons, and then we go on about our day. And it's so
And that
nice.
flexibility to make it work. I
Yeah,
think
it allows you to just make it your own. Like,
yeah.
we haven't had a normal school year for years. I don't know. We don't move at normal times. This year we are, but usually we move in the middle of the school year, and then that's summer break, because I'm not doing school while we're in hotels, while we're trying to bring all that stuff along is just impossible. So we don't do school whenever we're moving. And like I said, 4 times in 4 years, that's a lot. But that makes it so that, like, we are doing school over the summer sometimes. And that's totally fine, because usually it's so hot you don't want to be outside anyways, and that works for us.
Yeah.
So you have that flexibility. We, like Ashley is saying, she's going to decorate her room and have like a homeschool room. We do it on the couch. We sit on the couch. We do whatever we want. Like, and then we just get it done. So it looks different for everybody, but you can make it what you want it to be. And there's no comparison in that sense. Like, you are doing your thing. Your kids aren't behind. Who are they behind? Themselves last year, right? And that, I think that's the biggest thing. And so the one thing that I do recommend, though, no matter where you are, so each state has really different rules. We've lived in multiple different states. They all have different rules. Some have funding, some have whatever. But the big thing is, I would consistently do, and have kind of taught people over the years, is still to do your annual tests, because some states don't require it, and that's fine. Like, it's nice for you to not have to do it, but it's really, really good for you to have it, because while you're not comparing, like, my kids falling behind the public school, you don't have to worry about that. Like, who cares? Because by the end of the high school, you'll be done with high school. It doesn't really matter. You don't want your kid to fall behind themselves. You want to know, like, hey, last year in reading,
you hit everything you need to learn.
They don't have to be at, like, my kids are not, neither of them are at grade level on every single thing, but they're a year ahead of where they were last year. And that's all that matters to me. As long as we're consistently going forward, they'll catch up.
And honestly, I don't know many actual high schoolers that are like, they don't fall flat that first semester of college anyway, if that's where they're going. Because
and I don't think it really matters
schools.
if you plan on homeschooling. I think it would matter if you are homeschooling with the intent of going back to public school to make sure that they are on track. But if you're planning to homeschool through the entire time, I think like as long as, like Sabrina said, like you're going forward and you're meeting those, by the time that they graduate, they are hitting.
There's a lot of people who get nervous about that, like getting back into public school situation, but I think also you're going to realize really, really quickly that you go through curriculum so much quicker because you can sit down and do 2 lessons in one day and still be less time than you did at school. So your kids are really unlikely to fall behind because unless you just stop teaching for some reason, they're probably going to go back and they're going to be like, holy crap, we're so far ahead. Just because it is so much easier to teach 2 children versus teaching 25 children in one room. Yeah.
Well, and then you have all those different speeds and spaces. So like, you know, they're taking like a week long to teach one lesson. Kids are picking it up on some pick it up on day 1, and there's still kids who won't pick up at it at all. And I do think that, and that was, again, one of my biggest reasons for, at least for Devlin specifically, was he would be so like just happier and more like in his zone if he could just learn at his speed, which is not the same speed as other kids.
Yeah. So there's 2 more things I think we should touch on is socialization. We can start with that. That is going to be one of the biggest things you're going to hear all the time is, well, you're not going to be socialized. But also you'll hear weird things. Like my brother, he was like, well, your kids should get bullied. They need to learn how to deal with bullies. And I'm like, no, they don't. We deal with bullies as adults. They don't need to start learning about bullies in 5th grade. That's stupid. This is the stupidest advice I've ever heard. It's like, no.
Well, and they're going to encounter it anyways. I mean, we encountered this really, I mean, not being mean, but like this kid, we were at Target yesterday in the Band-Aid aisle, mind you. And this kid looks at Devlin and go, what did he say? Something along the lines of like, you're like, something along the lines of you're stupid, but it was like much more insulting. And my mom just kind of stood there for a second and I kind of looked at her and she goes, you can't say things like that. That's rude. And I wanted to be like, dude, like, your child, like, Devin was just picking up a box of Band-Aids and I was looking for a cortisol cream because I like had allergic reaction to something. And I was just like, and I literally, we walked away and I turned to Devin and I was like, I don't know what his deal was. That wasn't kind. Do not take offense to it. Like, we're going to just keep going about our day because like, you're smart. You know that, like, whoa, they're going to run into that no matter what. Like playground, the community pool, wherever you may go to, they're still going to experience that. And I love that. Well, maybe it's just us because we're so busy, but like my kids are never going to be antisocial. Like my kids are always surrounded by people. We have our military community, which is a community itself, you know, and I think what's now is homeschooling is becoming so popular, right? That there are all these homeschooling groups. There's big groups. There's just smaller groups getting together because big groups kind of give them anxiety. Like there's so many people that you can kind of connect with that your kids are going to be fine.
I mean, you got to think about us as adults. How much socializing do you really need, though, also? Like, what is super essential is to be able to communicate with other people, your peers, and more importantly, not your peers. Like, you need to also be able, like, that's what homeschool brings you into this community of a different perspective because they're not just in a classroom with kids the exact same age. My homeschool group ranges from kindergarten through high school. And it is really cool because then we have games and they have things where they have to interact with people who are older, people who are younger. They learn leadership from dealing with the younger kids. They learn how to follow and listen to rules with the older kids. And it works out so much better. I think it goes back to like the olden days in the one room school room where the older kids would teach the younger kids. And I do that in my classes. Like with Kira, if I'm over them arguing about something, I'd be like, fine, you teach him his lesson because she's already done that lesson, right? Like especially in math, you teach him. Because if you guys are going to keep fighting, I'm not going to sit here and deal with fighting. So you teach the lesson so she learns, is refreshing on classes that she's done years ago. And he gets to learn from somebody else's perspective because we all, especially as neurodivergents, we can all relate to we learn differently. how I do math and how I learned math is not how my teachers taught me. I definitely had to reteach myself a lot of things.
Well,
And
and
so
with math,
it's
they're
nice
teaching
for
in
her
school.
to get different perspectives on how she works through a problem versus how mom taught her how to work through a problem, or and
I
so
think
it's
that's the other
nice.
thing I like about homeschooling is the way they're teaching math nowadays in public school. I'm like, why? Like, what's the point of this? Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't make solving this problem any easier. It only confuses them because if they miss one step, then they're just SOL. Like, why? And obviously, like, I think it's gonna come down to like what is going to be like if it's asked on the standardized testing, like, do you have to cover that area? But at the same time, I'm just like, this is just extra work. Like, why do they change stuff like that? That's my biggest question about like education right now is like, why was so many things changed to get to the
And,
same answer?
and I have a kid who can do math in her head.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Deborah,
As
Darren's.
long as she can explain to me how she got it, I'm never going to make her show her work.
no.
As long as she gets the right answer and she knew how, like, she can explain at the, like,
But like, why do we have to show our work? Like, I understand why people have to show
why?
their work, so they like cheating, but like, you don't have that like in your own
I think it
classroom.
comes down to, so I make my kids show their work a lot as we've been moving into algebra, because if their answer does come out wrong, they can easily trace back to which
No,
they
Yeah.
went
no,
wrong.
yes, but it depends. Like, I have her do it a few times, showing me her work, but after that, if
Yeah, if she's
that is
consistently, if they were consistently
sound
getting the
logic,
answer right, it's one thing.
go
Yeah.
But
for it.
like Kira will get things wrong because algebra has like 6 steps, and she'll
Yeah.
do 4 and be like, think that's the answer. And it's like, this is where you messed up here. And if she doesn't show the work, I'm like, I don't know, you have to redo the whole thing because I don't know which part you did wrong.
Wrong.
So
Yeah,
I just make
I'm
her
not
show
talking
work.
about
That is
like
a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah.
multiplication and division.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
basic
just
math,
like
stuff
for
like that. If you're getting it
Expanded
right,
form.
I believe you.
But I'm like referring to more like expanded form. Like,
Yeah.
why what's the point of, I mean, I understand I understand like that should be like a lesson of like how to break it out. So like they can see like, okay, this is the hundreds, this is the tens, this is the 20s, ones, whatever the case may be, for them to visualize it, but to make that like something that they have to learn to handwrite out every single
Yeah.
time is
For
just dumb.
some kids, it's important because that's how they do
They
learn.
learn.
But
Yeah.
that for other kids, it just is so redundant. And
And see,
yeah,
with us, if they're getting it like this,
yeah, we
I'm
just
not
move on
going
to
to
the
make
next
you
lesson.
do it 100 times like
Mhm.
like the classroom's going to do. Okay, cool. You've got it. You're consistently showing me you got it. Cool. We're moving on to something else because we have better things to do anyway. You know how to do that. Yes, I'm probably going to throw a math problem back at you later down the road and make sure you still got it. But
Remember, yeah.
right now you have it. Let's move on.
Yeah. And that's what comes down to curriculum, because there's some curriculums that will just hammer like public school, and it's annoying. But then there's circular ones where they'll do a lesson about it. You'll kind of work on it for a couple lessons, and then it like goes away for a while, and then it comes back again in like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
where they're like, hey, do you still remember how to do this thing? That's what the math curriculum you do. And then they're like, oh yeah, I still know how to do it. And then it's fine. So then it moves on. So again, that comes down to like actually looking at the curriculums and not just picking one because someone else said to do it. I think that there's a lot of curriculums out there right now that are very popular.
Well, that's what I said. Like, it's
too.
overwhelming, and I finally was just like, I think I got so much from my teacher friends this year that I think I'm just going to be kind of piecemealing that together this year until I can kind of learn a little bit more about the homeschooling community and the home, like what would work best for our family. But because I was like, I started looking and I was like, I think I sent Sabrina a message. I was like, help. Like, I was like, what? Like, where? Like, what do you do? What do you do?
Long. And you're just, until you like physically are touching them. So that's another like tip. You could go to like a homeschool convention, because then you can like physically look at things. But there's things like The Good and the Beautiful, which are great for your first year. It's great.
Yes.
It's a pick up and go. Everything's there. But as you go and do homeschool for years, you're going to realize it's not really that good. I've had so many friends that started there and are like, we can't continue to do it because it's too much like public school, and they repeat things so much that they do it too much, and their kids
Here and there, it's great. Like they have some things that you're like, oh, let me print this because I know
we definitely grab. I love their science units. They're really fun. Like you can still take. That's what I think is Frankenstein your school. If you like online, then you go for your just doing online, and then that's
I didn't want to do anything online because I wanted the
Frankensteining is best because you can pick what works really good for you. Like we do a Christian-based math, but that works really good for my kids because we like the way that it's set up. And then you can do like we make our own units for like all of our other classes.
Alex says IXL math, but it's in a workbook because he likes it because it does break it down. But for him, he needs it. Astrid, she
just wants to get it done.
So we use something else. So
yeah, just learning what works for you and your kids is so much more important than just like jumping in on something.
You don't have to use the same thing for each kid.
Yeah,
you shouldn't probably.
You probably shouldn't because I mean, I feel like maybe the science and stuff you can because science is science.
It's
but
so fun.
And what's nice is if your kid gets super into something in science, then on that kid, then you can get some extra and do that.
Yeah.
But the science stuff is the science stuff. And, there's some people that are like, oh, well, I don't like that public school teaches my third grader about body parts. Okay, cool. Then skip it until you're ready to tell them about all that. It's so annoying, but my kids have been in and out of a doctor's office. My daughter walked into the OR
in kindergarten, but that's just my opinion. Yeah. I think that sheltering kids nowadays, especially in today's society, is just setting them
dangerous,
up for failure.
Honestly.
It's dangerous. I will die on that ship. I think that they should know the proper terms of anatomy. I think that they should have the sex talk very early nowadays, just because of what I have personally seen. I've seen some of the crazy shit.
I feel like different versions of the sex talk. Like it doesn't need to be
for the appropriateness.
Yes. Age appropriateness, but it needs to be something that's happened every single year. There needs to be it just needs to be there. And I think, and obviously, I do personally think that is a parent communication, but at the same time, there are so many parents who have never had this conversation. I mean, I remember there are parts of my sex talk. I mean, we actually had home or health in school. Like my kids' school here in Virginia, they don't even have health class. Like there is no health class whatsoever for elementary or middle school that I was aware of. And I was kind of blown away because I remember taking health in 5th grade and 6th grade in the DARE program, which is not even a thing anymore.
I think it is, but it's called something else.
Like just having those conversations,
be like the same as it was when we were.
No, but I mean, like I remember going into the health class and talking about female anatomy and periods and things like that, and going like I don't even remember my mom ever talking to me about any of that stuff. Like, and I don't.
That's just a huge having a communication. Like now, having had a teenage daughter, we're so comfortable with everything. Like she'll come over and we track it together on my phone, so we know exactly. She's like, when's it gonna start? Like, where's the shark on your calendar? Like, because we have mark it on my calendar as a shark. And she's like, wait, when do I need to make sure that this is ready? Like, when do I need to go shopping for these? Like, we have that open communication, and I think that helps because of homeschool. And the way we do health class, because I do have a boy and a girl, and it would be really weird to do it together. I bought them each the girls' book and the boys' book thing that you can get, and I just am like, hey, you need to read this year. They both did it. I think Darren did it last year. Like we got it for him last year. And so Kira probably was in 4th grade or so around then. And we just were like, hey, I got you this. I gave him a notebook and I said, write down your questions. Then we'll just write back forth in a notebook. Because my kids get really embarrassed in person. But then in a notebook, they can write the question. I just respond it and then send it back to them. And it's been really nice to not it's still there. They get all that education because those books have everything. Not the sex talk particularly, but how sex works and how your organs work and how why these things happen with your body. And it's been really nice for us to have that kind of communication instead of direct, awkward, this is your lesson on health.
And see, I
just feel like if you don't think your kid hasn't heard about any of this by age 3rd grade, you're delusional. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
whether YouTube, the school, or TV has taught it to them, they've seen it.
Other kids, oh my goodness, I mean, we had kids vaping at the school as early as 6th grade.
Holy cow! Jeez.
They are getting what they want and when they want it, and I think that's one of the other reasons why I was okay, I know my kids are going to be exposed to these things. I know that, but at the same time, I kind of want to take them out of that environment and let them be kids to be kids. Like,
So that was the thing. You guys were like, "Oh, homeschool kids are weird." They are weird. But
yeah.
you know what? My kids have been at this camp all week and they go, "Public school kids are assholes." They tell me that
Like,
all the time. They're like, "Why are all the public school kids mean?" Because it's not like that in our homeschool community. You go and
because
people
they
just
are
have learned
taught
because
manners.
yeah,
They are
we're
taught
around our
manners and
parents.
respects.
It's so much better to be around your parents and learn the rules and the morals and like all these things from a better
That
perspective.
is
And then your homeschool groups are all parent supervised, right? Like it's very rare that it's going to be a drop off occasion. So like you're
mhm.
also in those situations there's some mediation that teachers can't they don't have the capacity to do.
Well, and it's so
And,
hard to manage 24 kids. Like there were times where something happened and I'm just like, "Whoa, what happened?"
right. So like
And
I would rather have weird homeschool kids who are nice to everybody and that public school kids think are weird than have these public school kids who are just mean to everybody. And it's a defense mechanism. It comes down from being in school, being bullied, you become defensive. And so then
well, there's so many
it
things that go
overlays.
into it. I mean, you have kids from every background. You have kids, I I had one kid that I was just having so much issues with this year when I was subbing, and I won't go into like details about that person, but like there were 20 people living in like a 2-bedroom house. Like this child just didn't have the attention that person that they needed. And so it was a lot of behavioral disorders and a lot of, attention seeking behavior and things like that. And you can see those individuals. You can see the kids like, who are undiagnosed and they're just labeled as a bad kid and they're just constantly getting like in trouble and things like that because they don't have the support that they need. And so then yeah, and then everyone and then like the tattling and the like I was like, when did I step into a mean girl movie, y'all? Like I literally told that to a bunch of third
Yeah.
graders like the last week of school. I was like, when did I step into a mean girl movie? I was like, do y'all hear yourselves? Like you guys are so mean.
Yeah.
Like
Kara has been like not wanting to go to camp the last 2 weeks because it's just middle school energy there. And she's like,
oh, I
I'm
hate
so
middle
glad you
school.
homeschool me. She's like, I could not do this every day at school.
I hated middle school. Like, I don't use the word hate that often, but I hated middle school.
So Astrid is in, because she's in the weird in between age for karate, but they also don't want me to have to like bring Alex, then wait an hour and a half, then bring Astrid back. So they let her go to the like older kids class because it's Alex's class then Astrid's class. And she can handle it. I mean, she's teeny tiny, but she has some high school girls in there. And oh my gosh, the stories she comes back telling, because she's like, I have all the tea I need. I don't need to go to school because those girls every week, twice a week, spill everything in this karate class, and it is hilarious. I mean, obviously, like if she had ever said anything that I was like, hey, they probably don't need to be saying that in karate, I'd say something to the instructor, but it's nothing. It's like, oh, this person wore this, and she's like, I don't even know who this person is, but they don't know how to dress.
I mean, and it's so funny that you said the word dress because, like, I remember my like going in high school, middle school, like the dress code and things like that, and like it being super strict. And then I'm looking at high school students right now, and I'm just like, even middle school students, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
dude, if I showed up like that, I'd be in detention for an entire week. Like I got detention for like ripped knees in my jeans.
I wouldn't be able to get
And
out of my house.
midriffs and all so I'm like a lot of it has to do with our culture. A lot of it
Yeah.
has to do with the way our society thinks and does things right now. And that's where for me, with Devlin already kind of being like the little weird kid that he is, and I love my son so much, but he is a little weird out. Like I said, he eats. I went upstairs and he ate the. I can't even believe I'm about to say this on the podcast. He bought a video game and ate the entire paper sleeve. And I was like, because at first I was like, hey, like when you clean up, I'm like, where's the paper for this? He goes, I ate it. I looked at him. I'm like, you're joking, right? He goes,
Have
no.
you
I'm
ever
like,
been tested for Pika? Just throwing that out there.
no, I haven't.
Because it might not be the ADHD, it might actually be Pika. Because I had a friend who ate in basic.
But he doesn't do
when
it
her
all the
and-
time. It's just like he chews on things. Like
yeah,
I literally have to look at him and be like, "You're going to choke and die." Like,
my friend ate toilet paper rolls.
Ugh.
well, like it's just it's. I don't. I think it's more of a fidget thing for him. Like he has like it can be anything. It could be paper. It could be a Lego. It could be a toy. It could be his freaking finger. Like he
Yeah.
just, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, I was just like, you ate the paper. And he's like, it's just paper. I'm like, it's not just paper, it's dye.
Not
It's
the dog ate my homework, it's I ate my homework.
I'm like, dude, I was like, come on. Like, do you want to be the kid that's known for eating paper? Like, you don't. I promise you don't want to be that kid. I was like, I have bought him like fidget, like they make like all these like, you know, like just for babies like to chew on. Like they make things for kids who have like a sensory issue. I really think it's a sensory thing because he either has to have something in his hands or he's chewing on something. And I'm just like like why? And then Claire's just like, yeah, he ate the whole thing and it was gross. And I'm like, well, why didn't you come say something? Like, like, oh man, I'm just like, and I'm like,
God knows what was on that. It was in a factory. It was sitting on the shelf.
It's got chemicals. It's got ink. It's got all the things. And I'm just like, it's not just paper, Devlin. And I was like, and paper is wood. You're eating wood. Like, what is
Are you a woodpecker?
So, and then like, but that's the thing, like, and then like, you know, and Claire's just very like dramatic, and she likes, you know, she's very quiet.
It will definitely let them be themselves more because they're not going to care what people are judging them because you will find a homeschool community and they'll most likely those kids will all be a little odd and it's wonderful.
But, like
my kids love it.
Said, we are all oddballs. We all have quirks to us. Let those babies shine.
Yes, that's the biggest thing is homeschool families let their kids be their kids. And we've talked about that like with even in education. We've stopped a lesson and went completely off racket and went and learned about a totally different thing because Darren will be like, but how did that engine work in that plane? And we're like, I don't know. So then we just do a whole lesson on something else. And that is so cool to have that flexibility. So the only thing that is really hard as a homeschool mom that we need to touch on is feeling like you can do it or not do it. And then the naysayers and the people who are going to make this hard for you. Because while you're going to find us, like, and this is why Ashley was like, oh, I can do it because we have support. She has the support of us.
I have so many people I know so many individuals who are homeschooling, and I was really, really hesitant. And I haven't really told everyone in our family that we're going to be homeschooling. I told my mom, and I actually thought my mom was going to be really against it. And she's like, I think that's a fantastic idea. Like, I think my dad's been trying to get me to homeschool the kids for years, but he's very anti anything government and public schooling, anything like that. But like, I haven't really kind of confirmed it with Jeremy's side of the family or anything like that. And there has been a lot of hesitation of like, will there be support and stuff like that? And like my understanding and things like that. But at the same time, like if you surround yourself with people who understand, that's really all that matters. Like find your, like, I know we preach this, find your tribe. Like, you know,
I get a lot of, especially from like my younger two's bio dad, like, oh, well, I can take them during this time because you can just move school around because you don't really do school. And I'm like, no, we're still going to stick to, so how we do it.
Kids need a schedule. They need structure.
They do. And so I base it off of Chloe's schedule because she's with Houston ISD. Even though it's an online public school, she still has a school calendar. And that's what my kids are based off of. And so when she has holidays, they have holidays. I give them off. Most Fridays, we do just something fun. I don't do like, most of the time we can get what we need to do for the week done in 4 days, not all 5. But that makes it where he can't be like, well, you don't have a set. No, I do, because we're going off the oldest. And so, no, this is when this happens. Like, you have to still have.
You're going to hit people who just don't understand it. And funny enough, I think as our years have progressed, the people who didn't understand it at first are the ones that are now like, oh, maybe I'll think about considering that. And it's like, yeah, because you've seen that it's stability. My kids are not dumb. Like when my family doesn't get to see our kids very often, but when they see them and then they compare them to like their cousins that are the same age, they're like, oh, well, your kids seem really far ahead. I'm like, it's fine, right? Homeschool's been fine, because my mom is one of those that I think it's because her parents, both my sisters are kind of teachers, and then it's just a lot of teachers in ours. And so there's a lot of teachers in their life where they're like, well, you're just taking away from the public school teachers. You're telling us that the public school teachers suck. And it's like, that's
not really it. It's just one, there's a lack of teachers. Like, teachers have way too many students in their classrooms. They have too many things on their plate. They don't have enough resources at their end. And that's not their fault. Like, I literally would, like, that was one thing that kind of like opened my eyes, like working in the school system this year. Not that I didn't know about it, but like kind of like seeing it hands on firsthand, like realizing like their hands are tied in so many ways. Like, there's only so much that they're allowed to do. There's only so much they can do. They have to, like, they have to be like, they have to stick to this. Like, I remember at the end of the year, like right before SOL, like them hammering and making sure these kids got these things done and learned and knew how to do these things before the testing, because it's so, I mean, like it's instilled and it's drilled in that they have to meet these
It's so
standards.
nice not to have to teach to a test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for someone who is a horrible test taker, I love that, because that was my biggest struggle. I was a horrible test taker. Even in college, I had a college professor who was just like, I would be doing horrible on tests. And he came up to me one time and he was like, Ashley, what is da 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 da? And I would be able to tell him. He's like, well, you got it wrong. And then he'd be like, what is this? Da 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 da. Give him the answer. And I was just like, I just have test anxiety. Like, I literally will second guess everything. And he's like, you know this, so why? And I was like, I don't know. This is just something I've struggled with my entire life. Like,
Yeah,
my
that's a really cool thing about homeschools. You don't need to, like, some states may be a little bit more specific on like showing what you've done, but still, even then, through 8th grade, most of them won't require grades. So like my kids don't have to stress about like whether they're going to pass or fail a class, because they turn in their work to me and we go over it together, and if something's wrong, they redo it.
Yeah.
And instead of getting a bad grade, they just have to redo work, and that sucks for them. Like, you need to do it right the first time, especially it's on things like writing assignments where I'm like, you knew you didn't put the effort in and you're still gonna have to redo it. But they don't have to worry about test grades. Now when you get to high school, which we're a year away from, that definitely has to change to some extent. Like, you have to make sure that they're presenting that the work is getting at the right level. Otherwise they shouldn't be passing, and you can't just be like, yeah, they learned that, they did that. Like, it gets different as you get older. But it's nice that my kids never have to worry about like the grade point average, whether they're passing classes, because as long as they're continuing to do the work
Well,
throughout the year, and then we do that test to prove at the
yeah.
end of the year, like, yeah, you've done
I
stuff.
mean, that can be so disheartening. Like, I remember like passing out tests and stuff like this past year, and then kids just kind of look at their grade and then just literally shutting down, because seeing them like try. So, and now some of them didn't try. There are kids out there who just don't care. Like, they just don't try. But then there are kids out there who are trying so hard, but they're just not getting it, and like they're just like, that is such a, when things are so like, you have to learn the standard and you have to get a good grade in order to test it and get a good grade. Like, it does affect a kid's morale, and they're not.
Yeah, and I want my kids to learn to love to learn,
Yes.
because I am a learner, like, and will forever be. And I will just take and learn about random things just because I'm interested in it, and I want them to have that. Like, that's what the homeschool, I want them to learn that learning is fun, and public school doesn't always give that opportunity to kids because of the things we've talked about. We've talked about bullying, we've talked about the testing expectations, we've talked about not getting it and falling behind, like people just not helping, the support isn't there. Like, there's so many reasons to homeschool, but especially as military families, we talked about the transitions.
That's
It
the big
is
one.
such a huge thing. And I'll attach the article that we were reading before we came on here, and like just why there's so much that has changed, because it's just really hard as a military family to try to continue to do the same public school route when there's so much transition in your life.
And then and like, it's really nice because like you can easily, at least most of the larger installations, I feel like there are established homeschool groups. You can reach out to an education liaison. They should have information about homeschooling themselves. Like, yeah, they mostly work inside the schools, but their job is that as well. And there's different programs out there. Like, when we're going to Benning, and they have a homeschooling like gym class at the YMCA. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Like, one thing that can get them out.
Use your military benefits. I definitely like, we can't as civilians use the DoD stuff, but definitely go in and talk to your DoD schools. And that's a good place to start if you're thinking about homeschool, because they can get you the resources. They will connect you to the homeschool groups that are attached to the base. They have so much information. They could probably, I mean, there's so many things that I don't even know what they could probably do, but I know we were able to access some of that when we were overseas, because that was our only American school near us or whatever. But that's accessible at every base, and you can go in and start talking to them immediately. I think some of the DoD schools allow them to do part credit, so like you can come in and do your like the fun classes at school, PE and music and art, and
And
then
like you can do the testing, like right, like
yeah,
you can sign up to do the standardized testing with them at the end of the year. Because like I know for like Alabama and Georgia, I think you have to like you have to file like so like we don't file. I don't know if you have to file a letter of intent, but it has to you have to be like with the school system. They're not
yeah.
just
So that's another thing with the DoD thing is you may have different exceptions too. You may not have to follow the state
yeah,
rules.
and I didn't know that.
So
That's
I
good
would
to know.
definitely go into DoD school, even if you're not on base, and just be like, "Hey, this is what we want to do. How do you have access to resources?" Because I think that as an active duty military, that is the best and first place you should start because they'll have the best information for you.
Just be aware that if you do like have things for your kid, like the kids go up to the school to do like an art class or anything like that, be aware that you are going to have to provide transportation. That is the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
If they're going to, you're going to have to take them and pick them up. I know that some people are like, oh, well, I can't do that. Well, then that's something you have to consider. Like, yes, you are going to have to take them. I'm actually about to start looking into to see if any of the school districts around here will let Chloe come and do the cosmetology class there so she doesn't have to wait till after because she's done by noon. Or we can shift her classes and she can do her school. Let's go ahead and get her into something because she wants to go to the beauty college anyway. So why
You
can't
might as well start getting her. Yeah,
why can't
That's
she do
really
because
cool
it's
about
for
homeschool
juniors
homeschooling.
and
Yeah.
junior and senior anyway? Why can't
yeah, and
I?
like
I'll bring
I
her.
think
I don't care.
that's what's great about the homeschooling thing because like that was one of my biggest like gripes growing up is like when we moved classes were already full. I mean like I said I got stuck in just the most random classes because that was all that was available. Like I did dance through all high school but the dance class was full my senior year so I wasn't able to do dance. So there's all these things that okay, I'll be there in a second. Oh god. Ooh. Okay, her ear is bleeding. I'll be there in a second. Go get a paper towel. I bet they were wrestling and her earring got yanked out. The I just really struggled with like getting into the classes that I wanted to be in because of the transitions and the moving and things like that. And if you're homeschooled, like you may have those options a little bit better.
Well, and what you can do is you can dual enroll through
Yeah.
different colleges, and like she was saying, like with the cosmetology, you can do that, and you have a flexible schedule. Where at the public school, those classes may have been available, but if you had to take this specific English class that was during that time where they had that flexibility, it wasn't an
You
option
wouldn't
to
be able
do.
to do it. Yeah.
So homeschooling, you can change it. Like you can be like, oh well, this is at 2 o'clock. Yeah, we should be doing math, but we'll just do math at 9 o'clock tonight. Like just whatever works for your schedule, and you can just shift it around.
Yeah. So I'm actually later today. I have to follow up with all the school districts around here, even the ones on because the schools on post here are run by the off post school district, so they are governed by their that school district. So I'm emailing both because I don't care if I have to take her into Colleen or even into Harker Heights. Like, oh well, it's oh darn, I'll drop you off and go to Target.
Yeah,
Like I'm literally over there in pretty much at least once a week anyway, so it's fine. But also she's about to start driving school anyway, so it can give us the opportunity to let her drive to that class and drive back and earn some responsibility
and kind of learn how college works too, like how that's
yeah I mean I would love if the college here did it because I would just enroll her in CTC and let my VA benefits do it, but the closest like beauty school is Temple, and right now that's not happening. Yeah. Especially because it's 7:30 to 4 every day, and moving school that much isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But if we can break it up over 2 years, then yeah.
So I hope that anybody who's listening to this has helped. I know it's kind of scattered because it is chaotic. I mean, Ashley's coming into it. There's so much to it, but find somebody who knows and take everything they say with a little bit of flexibility because what one person does is not going to work for every person. But research, figure out how you teach. That's my biggest important thing is figure out how you teach, because if you try to teach like online and you can't keep up with what that is, then you need to be teaching in person. If you can't do in person because it's way too much planning, then you need to figure out an online curriculum. Like there's so much importance to how you teach, not just how your kids learn, because you will just burn out, and don't burn out, because then you're just going to feel like you can't do it. And it's already going to have a lot of people who are just going to be like, you shouldn't be doing this. You can't do this.
Don't
Don't
listen.
say it to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely a route to consider for those who have been considering it, and it's a lot more accessible. And I think there's a lot more support than there was even just like 5 years ago. I feel like COVID really helped boost this up. Like it did help, make this come to light a little bit more. And so, if you are considering this, there you probably know at least one person within your network who is homeschooling. Like Sabrina said, just ask, because
Yeah, and there's so
I
many
think I've
resources
talked about
too.
it for years, but I finally was just like, we're gonna do it.
And look in the show notes. We'll include a ton of researches, or like no people, because like I personally know the military advocate through HSLDA, so we'll include her in there. We had another girl who does the military homeschool podcast on our show before, so there's another episode about homeschooling, but she has a whole podcast just about homeschooling in the military. So there are so many resources. HSLDA itself is super important to know, especially as your kids get older.
Mhm.
But that has every state law as far as homeschooling on their website. That I reference it every time we come up on a PCS where he's like, hey, these are the 3 states we could go, which ones work? And I'll be like, oh, I looked it up, we cannot move to this state, like this state will not function. So just having an idea of that too as you go through your military journal, because there's places like Maryland, that's one that comes right off the top of my head, that is super super strict about homeschool rules, and is, unless you have that kind of mentality to be able to fight with the government on how you do your homeschool, I'd be advised to not, or to live outside of the state and have him work in state, whatever. So just make sure you do your research. That's a huge heavy thing, because homeschool's really fun, but if you don't do your research, it can be really really stressful. But yeah, I think it's the best thing we've ever done for our family, because we've moved again so many times that my kids are so lucky to have had the same education throughout that time.
Yeah.
Well, hope you enjoy this. I know it's long. Hopefully you're still here. And if you need to reach out, Ashley, me, and Laura all homeschool now. So you have 3 people on your side. So we can all help you on anything that you need. But as we like to say, Ruck Up Buttercup.
Bye, everybody.